You may be one of the 2 billion or so Christians that hold the belief that Jesus Christ was crucified and buried on a Friday afternoon, known as Good Friday, and resurrected at dawn on Easter Sunday, approximately a day and a half later. The problem with this, however, is that this widely accepted timeline seems to conflict with Jesus' own words about the duration of his entombment. According to Jesus, as quoted in Matthew 12:40, he would be in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights, mirroring Jonah's experience in the fish's belly. The significance of Jesus' statement becomes clear in the context of his conversation with the scribes and Pharisees. They were seeking a miraculous sign to verify his messiahship. Jesus responded, "An evil and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, and no sign will be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah." Thus, the only sign Jesus offered as proof of being the Messiah was his comparison to Jonah. This statement underscores the discrepancies between the traditional belief of his death and the resurrection timeline, and his own prophecy. The Gospel accounts clearly state that Jesus passed and his body was swiftly entombed late on the afternoon before the Sabbath began, as evening approached. Under the conventional belief of Good Friday, Easter Sunday, the period from Friday evening to Saturday evening comprises of just 1 day and 1 night, while the stretch from Saturday night to Sunday dawn adds another night, totaling 2 nights and 1 day. This presents a puzzle. Where do we find the additional night and 2 days to match the 3 days and 3 nights Jesus declared he would spend in the tomb? This rather obvious discrepancy poses a problem, right? Many theologians and scholars attempt to resolve it by suggesting that any part of a day or night is equivalent to a full day or night. They propose that the late hours of Friday counts as 1 day, Saturday as the second, and the early moments of Sunday as the third. And this may seem plausible at first glance. However, this explanation still falls short. It only accounts for 2 nights and 3 days, not the 3 days and 3 nights Jesus mentioned. Furthermore, John chapter 20 verse 1 informs us that Mary Magdalene visited the tomb on the first day of the week while it was still dark, only to find the stone rolled away. Do you notice another issue here? John indicates that it was dark when Mary arrived at the tomb on Sunday, suggesting that Jesus had already risen before dawn. Therefore, none of Sunday's daylight can be counted as a day in the tomb. This leaves us with a partial day on Friday, the entire night of Friday, the full day of Saturday, and most of Saturday night, a sum of 1 full day, a portion of another, and nearly 2 full nights. This still falls short by a full day and night from the duration Jesus stated that he would be entombed. There's an evident discrepancy here. Either Jesus misspoke about the time he would be in the tomb, or the Good Friday Easter Sunday model just doesn't align with biblical accuracy. Clearly both cannot be correct, so which interpretation holds true to you? Grasping the timing of Christ's crucifixion and resurrection also lies in understanding how days were calculated according to God's timekeeping, particularly in the context of biblical festivals that occurred during the spring. It's important to note that, unlike our modern system, where days start and end at midnight, biblical time reckoning begins and ends with the evening. Genesis 1:5 clearly states that a day starts with the evening, the night, and concludes at the following evening, a pattern reiterated through the 6 days of creation. Leviticus 23, which outlines God's holy Sabbaths and festivals, specifies that these events should be observed from evening to evening. This means each day is marked from one sunset to the next. The understanding of time is crucial in the context of Jesus' burial. This is why Joseph and Nicodemus, who were followers of Jesus, hurriedly entombed his body just before sundown, as the Sabbath was about to begin at sunset, marking a time when work had to be paused. There are numerous intelligent computer programs that are able to calculate the dates of Passover and other biblical festivals for any given year. According to these programs, in AD 31, the year these events occurred, the Passover meal was observed on Tuesday evening, and the commencement of the high day, or the first day of the Feast of the Unleavened Bread, was on Wednesday at sundown. Therefore, it appears that Jesus was crucified and buried on a Wednesday afternoon, not on Friday. Is there additional evidence for this in the Gospels? There is. I want to point to Mark 16:1, which reads, "Now when the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome bought spices, that they might come and anoint him." Since Jesus' body was entombed just as the high day Sabbath was starting, the women wouldn't have been able to buy spices beforehand. Additionally, they couldn't make purchases during the Sabbath when the shops were closed. Therefore, Mark indicates they bought the spices after the Sabbath had ended. It becomes clear, therefore, that Jesus Christ was crucified and buried on a Wednesday, right before the start of an annual Sabbath, not the regular weekly Sabbath. So when did his resurrection occur? As previously mentioned in John 21, on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb early, where it is still dark, and saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb. It was still dark, indicating that the sun hadn't risen when Mary discovered the empty tomb. Therefore, it's evident that Jesus didn't resurrect at sunrise on Sunday. So when exactly did it happen? The answer is straightforward if we look at the Gospels and Jesus' own words. Jesus stated in Matthew 12:40, "For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." Given that Jesus was placed in the tomb just before Wednesday sundown, we count forward. 1 day and night to Thursday sundown, another to Friday sundown, and a third to Saturday sundown. Jesus' words suggest that he would have been resurrected 3 days and nights after his burial, around sunset. This timing aligns with the scriptural account that he had already risen when Mary arrived at the tomb early on Sunday.